What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Across the Border. My name is Max. I'm here with Chris. And today, no guest, boys only. We're just going to be talking about how to structure your offseason.
Oh, it's like for like speaking better and shit?
No,
So why'd you say for the podcast?
bacon's not real, and neither are no. Bacon's not real because if you go to a grocery store, there's too much bacon.
Keep working, your time will come.
Shit. It sounds like you're eating human bone. It's a mini. It sounds like you're eating hamster bone.
It might be stupid, but is India in the Middle East? I don't think so. Is it?
Because now, for the most part, school's over.
For the most part, school is over.
It's for us over, but I'm talking about the kids who are watching this, like grade 8s, 9s, 10s, high school kids. School just finished.
Your sister and brother.
It's my sister, my brother.
Who-
Kids I play with at the rec or whatever.
When is that over? When is?
Probably like recently. I say like I go to the JC in my area, and I feel like it was pretty dead
Do you
until
want to tell
like
them what the JCC is?
the Jewish community town. We accept all ethnicities or religions, though, but it is Jewish community center. Very very popular place. So many elite hoopers play there. Like we have runs almost every Friday with like elite guys, current guys, ex-college guys,
Do they give
future
out free
college
yarmulkes at
guys.
the door?
Say that again.
Do they give out free yarmulkes at the door?
I'm sure if you inquired, you could probably get yourself a yarmulke. But yeah, so it's just.
Have you ever tried to hoop with a yarmulke on?
No, Rari has. My hair's just too long, but it would work for Rari because Rari's hair is short.
Dude, I would hate that so much. I hate playing with anything on my body. I can't even play with a shooting sleeve.
Yeah, just another variable. But back on topic to what we were talking about. So school's out. I mean, obviously I've been going to the gym, and now there's just an influx of little kids running around throwing basketballs from half court.
Dude.
And not even like outdoor size 5 basketballs at the rim,
That should be
playing in flip flops and stuff. And so I really have to structure when I'm gonna go around when the little kids are gonna go. And yeah, so we kind of just want to take this time and just talk about how to structure your off season to really make sure you're getting better and preparing for your next season. Whether you got cut this past season, whether you didn't have the role you wanted this past season on your team, or whether you did have the role and trying to expand it and take your game to the next level.
This is really important, by the way, because I never did this. I was terrible at this because I got into basketball late. So I didn't really have, I kind of just said I was going to train harder in the summer, which I did, but I wasn't intentional enough. I didn't set clear guidelines and goals about how and what I wanted to improve. And that's like, that'll screw you over in the long run if you don't set really specific goals on what you want to do in the off season.
So the first thing we kind of want to talk about is just like overtraining and like the myth that you need to be in the gym all the hours of the day. You need to be in the
We've
gym.
already covered this in so many podcasts.
But,
We're
like-
going to do it again.
Yeah, we're gonna do it again. You're not Kobe. You're not David Goggins. You can't be in the gym for 8 hours.
You
and
can't
get better.
carry the boats.
You cannot carry it. Not yet. The reason why Kobe was able to work out for 6 hours a day, 3 sessions of 2 to 3 hours, was because his body sustained the durability. His body got used to that workload over 20 years. 20 years in the NBA and 20 years
Let's
of.
not act like his ACL and all that shit didn't start breaking the fuck down in his 30,
Yeah, exactly.
60. Like,
Exactly. And one thing I actually saw this thing on, I don't know if it was on Instagram or it was on TikTok, and it was a few years ago, but it was like the difference between MJ and Kobe was that MJ just trained smarter, and so his body held up more. Which, I mean, very similar style of play, skill level, both all-time greats, but just, I don't think Michael never necessarily, like,
I don't think
sustained
he had
any
career
injuries. Yeah, it's just, I think, and I watched like the Jordan documentary and stuff like that, just the way he trains and the way he explains it, it's just, like, he was not in the gym for, I mean, obviously he had his other habits that he liked to partake in that took time out of the gym. But I mean, obviously he was a dog and he was competitive, worked hard, but like,
Yeah.
your body can't sustain going 9 hours
I
a day.
think really what we should talk about here is like, you should go, this is what I would do. I would go as hard as I can. I'm going to try and cut down on the swearing. I would go as hard as I humanly could for a week and then just figure out what your maximal effort is, your maximal output for maximum effort is, and then start to see when it falls off. Because there is a point where you're in the gym for 6, 7, 8 hours. See what your maximum capability is, and then just run with that. But you do have to go as hard. Figure out what your limit is. Is what I'm
I
saying.
guarantee you can't do that for more than 3 days in a row.
what I'm saying. You have to do it for a week, and if you can sustain it for a week, you can probably sustain it for 2 weeks.
I would say even 2 weeks, because a week you could have like. I would say 2 weeks. If you can
go
sustain
as
it for 2
hard
weeks,
as
then
you think
do
you
it.
can go, and just see how long you can hold on to that for. And if you start, you'll know. Like you can tell when your reps start to get bad, when your form starts to degrade, you start
When
doing
your
those bad
body
habits.
starts, your back starts to hurt.
Yeah, all
and
that stuff. Like, figure out exactly where that point is, and then just ride that. And it's probably going to end up going up because you're going to end up training your body to sit with that level of intensity for a long period of time. But figure out exactly what your maximum capable effort is, and figure out when that starts to drop off, and do that for as long as you can.
And realistically, it's going to be between 2 and 4 hours a day, but not straight. And 1 to 2 hour sessions.
I mean,
a day.
I would debate. There's probably some people who can go. Like, there is some people out there who can go for 8, but it's very like split up. Because I would heavily debate that I could have gone, because I used to go for 8 hours, and there'd be some shitty reps. But if you split it up, I think you can make that work. Depends on the person.
We're just talking in general. Like, I think realistically, we're gonna get into a schedule in a minute. But like, if you go hard for 1 to 2 hours a day, twice a day, that's plenty. And you sustain this for 6 days a week for 8 weeks of summer, 9 weeks of summer. You will guarantee you come into your next season a different player and a better player.
But if you feel like you can go harder,
but you go as hard as you
harder.
can. If you can go harder than that, but also, like, that's kind of like the target area, I would say, of
for you,
1 to 2. And I've gotten to be a pretty high level. So, but I was definitely doing more on some
that's
points
what
in
I'm
my
saying.
career.
Like, you got to find that limit.
Yeah.
'Cause it's different for everybody.
So it's kind of so now got that over with. Talk about what you actually should be doing while you're on the court. So we can kind of talk about, like, first of all, obviously you're a basketball player. Like, obviously lifting weights is important. Obviously cardio is important, but like, you gotta put the ball in the hoop. So basketball on the court stuff is obviously the most important. Should be the majority and the emphasis of your training. So kind of we're talking about what you want to do on the court. And so I kind of want to talk about, like, to start that, is like this training session I went to yesterday. So we kind of had this like crossroads, me and Chris, of Chris's old AAU coach, trainer, mentor, I guess.
We're gonna name drop
Shout out Brad.
Matsugu.
And yes, he is the guy who runs like the Toronto or the Ontario like development program for like kids. He's
SBA Blues coach. I think he's coaching grades 7 and 8. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, he's a coach. My ex-trainer, his current therapist.
So I kind of got in contact with him through Chris when he found out that me and Chris are going to the same school, because he briefly knows me of when I tried out for.
He low-key stalked that, because I don't know. I was just chilling on campus one day. I was shooting around, and then I just got a random text saying, "Hey, how are you and Rolnick getting along?" I was like,
I didn't even know he remembered me. I tried out for that because it's a very selective like program. The
your
development
revenge
program.
getting to fry because he cut you in grade
So he
6.
cut me in grade 7 or 8 from this development program, which I definitely should have made. And I'm not going to net drop names, but there was one coach that definitely was not rooting for me. But whatever, we're here now. And so I don't know that he remembered me. It was very, very like, it was so long.
Steel trap memory.
9 years. That was honestly like, remember when last episode, which is going to come out soon, Steph was kind of like, you need that thing that's going to like instill that fire in you. Like, that was honestly probably like one of the first things that kind of like, cause I've never been like, I was never like unbelievable on the really good teams. I've always made every team I tried out for. That was really the first time I was being cut. And that kind of like stuck with me, and I was like, hey, I need to lock in. So that's really when I kind of locked in, which was probably a good time to start, was going to high school. So, but I've been loosely in contact with him recently because of Chris, because Chris was like, we're very close to him during his AAU and stuff. And so he wished me congratulations on my commitment, and then he invited me and one of my close friends, Ryan Rudnick, who was just on, to this training session after the Team Ontario development program or whatever it is. And so we went yesterday, and yeah, it was so what he made us do, basically, he asked everybody to come in with one game read they wanted to work on and one skill they wanted to work on. So what he means by that is a game read, meaning like a pick and roll, meaning like a pin down, meaning like something, you may have the ball, you may not have the ball, but not a move, it's like a read. It's like something where you have to live read the defender's body, what the defender's doing, and make a decision out of it. It's not necessarily one move, but it's a scenario. So one of those, and you have to pick one specific move you want to work on, and like specific, not just like 3-pointers. Like what? So my thing is I wanted to work on pump fake slide 3s. For example, I was playing in these runs I was talking about before at the JC, and everybody knows that I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to shoot the ball. And so if I get the ball on a rebound and I run out to the corner, I'm going to shoot a fadeaway 3. And most of the time, we get the ball back. But I got blocked once or twice, and I feel like, hey, damn, like that's a really good time, like, because people are starting to pick up that I can shoot the ball really well. So I want to add to my game of a pump fake and then a relocate. And I don't know if we didn't really end up getting to work on that throughout the session, but I'm sure it's going to come throughout the next little bit. But like that's something specific that I want to add to my game, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But then the game reads is, so yesterday we worked on we're going to work on, I wasn't able to go today, but it's going to be pin downs. So it's like reads of a pin down, so you can curl the pin down. Or actually, we did work on pin downs yesterday because one of the restrictions we had to do in live play was no ball screens. So if you want to get open, you have to set an off ball screen. So, and we can talk about that a little bit. So what he basically made us do when we played live is he gave everybody who is like the highest level of players there a restriction on what they
He
can
does this
do.
with everybody. So if you're really good at something, he'll take that away from you, and then you'll have to figure out how to play without it. So he's a shooter. So he made him play. You couldn't shoot threes
at the start.
And then
We'll talk about that.
Then he started shooting mid ranges, and then he stopped. He said you can't shoot any more mid ranges, so he just turned him into a complete slasher. And Ben Simmons style builds.
Yeah. So basically, he told the guys. So me, I wasn't allowed to shoot threes. Ryan Rudnick wasn't allowed to shoot threes. This other guy who played out at prep school, and I don't know where he plays now, but he wasn't allowed to drive. He's a stronger kid, good at finishing. There's a 7-footer who played for Team Canada a few years ago, plays at a prep school in Florida, and he wasn't allowed to score in the paint. He just had to play in the perimeter. So kind of just taking away like kind of what you're good at, which is also what we're like on the court. Like you really need to hone in on like your weaknesses, because obviously like I'm a good shooter, and I'm gonna become a better shooter, so I'm gonna work on it. Because you definitely can't neglect what you're good at, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna get on the court to shoot. So I have to make sure that by the time season comes, I'm in peak shooting condition and I'm ready to let it fly. But I also have to expand my game, and I can't just shoot. I need to try and find other areas to improve on as well.
Yeah, I think those runs are a pretty good example of like the difference in training levels, especially coming from where I was from. Runs were always just one-on-one, just you working on your bag. But then I went to the city, started playing basketball there, and it's just having structure in runs. It'll get you so much better than just going out there and doing whatever you want. It's like if I was going to tell a kid, myself, younger me, to go do something, it would be if you're going to get your guys together and start playing, it would be to do that restrictions thing, or it would be to do that kind of like just come in there with an intention. And I would even maybe run plays, like just come in there with a clear structure of how you want the runs to go, so it doesn't get chaotic and you're not just playing to play. And you'll see a lot more progress because you're coming in with an intention, you're coming in with structure, and you're mimicking games. Game-like scenarios a lot better, because if you specifically wanted there to work on pin downs, so now every time you get a set of pin down, that is locked into your mind. That's just it sets a much better framework for how the game's going to go.
Even on specifically though, so I wasn't allowed to shoot threes, so now I'm specifically out of the pin down working on curling into the mid ranges or curling and going to the basket, so which eliminates what I would feel most comfortable, and what I would probably do most of the time is curl the pin down to a three or flare it. But I can't do that anymore, so I have to work on the other actions out of that like larger action and get better at those things, to maybe I can become a more versatile player. But also like, at Madai, when we were in the off season, like all of our runs were structured in the sense of like we had to start off with our offense and with our motion offense and play out of that. It wasn't just like, I mean, obviously if you got a bucket, finish it, but also often sometimes like if you had a transition basket, you just pulled it out and reset, because like you're not getting better for making a fast break layup. Like how about you get a basket within our offense, like that's going to translate to the game next year. But structure is very important. I think the theme of not only this podcast, but of your off season should be intention. Like going into your off season, really be honest with yourself and reflect how your season went last year, where your areas of improvement are, and what you can do to improve in those areas to increase your role to become better next year. So for example, me, obviously I'm going to shoot the ball in college, and like that's a big umbrella, but I think I want to get better at reading off pin downs and moving off the ball and shooting on the move, as opposed to just catch and shoot threes, as well as defense, which is another big area that I need to definitely improve on. But those are like some specific, and so what am I doing on to get better at those? Well, not only am I going to these structured sessions where I come in with an intention of what I want to do and get better at that, I'm also, let's say, for example, today I went to the JC with Ryan, I go with Alex all the time, who has been on twice now. His second episode is coming on soon, and we'll warm up with like mid ranges on off the dribble mid ranges, like pull ups, threes, and then we have a whole series of on the move shots. And I can really see the more I do that and the better I get at that, the more it translates to the games, the more it translates to the pickup, and more it's hopefully going to translate to the actual my actual games next year at Elms. So it's really just focusing, and then it's also intentionally working on what you just practiced in games. So like if I see an opportunity to curl with like left foot, like with my left foot first, from the right side for a 3, I'm going to try and do that as much as possible and shoot the ball if I get in that scenario, because that's really what I'm working on. Because I feel a lot more comfortable curling off my right foot than I do off my left foot. So in games, if I have an opportunity to shoot it off of that type of curl, I'm going to. And it's just different type of things, really, really being intentional about what you want to work on.
Since we're on intention, I'm going to skip ahead here to one of the other points. But talking about, like, if you're going to go into a run, have the mindset that you want to expose yourself to as many different types of defenders as possible. Because, like, when I was younger, I always wanted to be the kid to come in and just fry everybody because I had all these drill moves in my bag. But if I was smart, I would have been playing against the guys that I knew matched up against me like really well. Like I've always hated playing against taller defenders because I can't get to the rim as well. I can't shoot over. It's just a lot. My game is really wired to play against guys who are shorter and faster, so I can bump them off of me and stuff like that. So understanding who you are as a player and who's going to match up with you really well and challenge you is a big part of your off season. Because if you're playing with the same guys over and over again, you start to learn their tendencies. And Arsenal talked about this in years, how he brings out new guys every time to the run, so you never get used to someone's tendencies. That's a big thing, understanding who you are as a player and understanding who you struggle to play against and who has a really easy time guarding you.
And get uncomfortable. Because you're not getting better not getting uncomfortable and just doing the same ball handling stuff you do, or the same shooting routines you do. Like, once you find yourself good, switch it up. Even in the weight room, like, once you're getting really comfortable with something, switch it up, because you're going to find more progress in that little amount of time of switching up to a new movement or a new thing and getting the hang of that and that difference, as opposed to just spending that time doing the same thing you've been doing. But that being said, don't take away from the fundamentals, because there are definitely some fundamental principles that you need to stick to. So trying to kind of find variety and find variability within the fundamentals. But like kind of what you just said is like, yeah, like, so I said before, like, obviously I didn't want to work on my defense. So after runs or at night or whatever, I would tell the best player on our team, the fastest player, the most athletic player, the best finisher, arguably one of the strongest players on our team, who's going to play Division II basketball next year, to literally either come and play King's Court with me, or sometimes I would just be on defense. And if we played a 7, my stops are worth 2, his bucket was worth 1, or we'll play to 8. My stops were 2, so I get 4 stops for he gets 8 baskets, and I would lose a majority of the time just because his offense is so superior to my defensive ability. But from session 1 to session 2, from session 2 to session 3, and then from session 3 to maybe the runs, and from then to now, I've gotten better. And it was demoralizing at the beginning, but you can't let like the fear of failure and the fear of being uncomfortable stop you from growing, because that's really how you grow, is you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and you play versus people who are better than you. So the next thing so on court, just to summarize, is like, intentionally find something, reflect on yourself and intentionally work, whether it's on your weaknesses, which it should be, still sharpen your strengths, and kind of do what you practice in live settings versus live defense. And and then just don't overdo it. Like, for example, we'll get into my schedule after. But now I think you're better qualified to talk about the weight room, and then I'll talk about kind of what I'm doing in the weight room.
Okay, so that's what we're going on to?
Yeah.
Okay. I would be lifting weights, and this is coming from a guy who lifts weights dead ass 7 days a week. Oh, I swore. 7 days a week. At a minimum, I would be getting in the weight room 4 times a week, because all the body parts you have to hit and the movements you have to do, it's gonna be really hard to hit everything you want to hit with less than 4 days a week. Because if you're doing, let's say, push-pull legs, you're probably missing out on some plyometrics. Like, we built your schedule. You could be
doing that 4th day, yeah.
It's just, there's a lot of stuff that you need to incorporate into your off season but also like prioritizing. So if I was to go back in my career and look back on the biggest weaknesses I had in the weight room, it probably would have been size. Like, I just needed to put on more weight so I could move people, because I was getting bumped off my line on layups, all that kind of stuff, and driving to the lane. Like, I would when I get my hip down, I would get moved out of the way and bumped off. For me personally, I would have putting on size first, so that would have been a lot of volume and a lot of not super heavy weights. And then after that, it would have been plyos, because I needed to get faster.
You don't think doing less weight, less reps, more weight would have made you stronger? You wouldn't be able to up the line? Like, what?
It depends. The amount of weight that I put on and how fast I put it on, it's changed my game so radically that if I would have had this size back in grade 10, 11, 12, 13, it would have changed everything.
I disagree with that. I think if you had this strength at that time.
I'm obviously stronger, but I think the size has made such a big difference.
But how? That's empty. But without strength, it's empty, no?
Not necessarily, because there's some guys who genuinely just need, like, you've seen a player who, when they're on the court. There's guys that I know that are just genuinely too small. It doesn't matter how much if heavy weight they lift.
Yeah.
They're just too small. If they get bumped off, if they get bumped on a layup, they're gonna go flying because it's 100 pounds versus 250.
I
And
agree.
those guys just need to put on more size. I think
I
I
agree.
wasn't necessarily super small, but just having more size would have changed my game.
So
and helped me
you mean more like weight, not necessarily like muscle depth. You don't mean like physical inches to your arms or like
no, I
to
mean
your chest.
literal weight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Literal
clarify
weight to
that.
throw
Literal
around
weight.
would have been my first priority because I was just not up to par with the players.
Which
I was
comes from
playing
nutrition,
against.
which we'll get into in a minute. But you definitely need to be eating more. Your chances are you're not eating enough protein.
But yeah, what I was getting at there is understanding your weaknesses. Again, understanding your weaknesses as a player. If you're a big man and you're struggling to stay in front of guards, size should be the last thing on your mind. It would be plyometrics, working on my speed, and then down the line strength and all that stuff. But prioritize, put the first things first. So if you're gonna go into the gym and you understand you need to get faster, put the plyometrics at the beginning of your workout. Because if you put them at the end, like you know how everyone puts calves at the end of their workout and they end up skipping them all together? That's why everyone has small fucking calves. That's what ends up happening if you put that stuff at the end of your workout. So prioritize the stuff at the beginning, get that stuff out of the way, and then go from there.
For sure. Now, if you're a basketball player, like let's just talk about first, like what kind of up. So that's lower body. Obviously, you need to have your strength stuff in there because you obviously need to be strong, have a strong base. You have your plyometric stuff so you can be fast twitch, get off the ground quickly, run quickly. But I feel like a lot of hoopers know what to do lower body. Like there's a lot of information about plyometric stuff, but I feel like upper body is where that's really like where you get bumped off the line. It's a lot of legs, but it's also core and upper body. That's also like one of. I mean, naturally, I just have skinnier frame to my leg, but I feel like I've been doing a ton of leg stuff, and my legs are strong. Like I can, it's mainly my upper body where I needed to put on the work, put on the weight. But specifically, the stuff that I target my upper body, so specific muscles, again, intention. Your front delt and your tricep are two of the most important muscles in your body, although they're the smallest for basketball. Your tricep and your front delt. Front delt, and this is specifically for me for shooting, because think about it. You bring the ball up in this motion, that's all your front delt, and you bring the ball like that, your follow through like that is all tricep. But also, being able to be stabilized after getting a bump is side delt, but it's also a lot of front delt to be stabilized. So in my opinion, those are two of the most important things. So when I, for example, hit shoulders, I'm mainly prioritizing front delt movements. And I'm obviously not neglecting my side delt and other muscle groups, but I'm mainly prioritizing my front delt because that's what I deem the most important. And for example, arms, most of my arm day is made up of tricep because in my opinion, like having big, strong biceps is the least important thing in basketball.
It's having strong, yeah. It's also like lacking body parts. So if you know that a certain body part is super weak in comparison to the rest of your body, obviously put that at the beginning of your workout and focus on that more on most of your days. My quads are extremely overdeveloped in terms of the rest of my body, and they've always been that way. So that would probably be the last area I would put a lot of effort towards because that's always been an area I've already been strong in.
Yeah, but you also don't want to neglect that completely. Like you obviously have
Obviously
to be
not, but it's
training
just not
that
something
a
I
little
would
bit.
prioritize.
Yeah. So I mean, me personally in the weight room right now, I'm working out 5 days a week in the weight room. Me and Chris have kind of, for me,
7.
made a plan for what I should be doing to best get better, and it's changed throughout the year. But like throughout this year, I went into Madai 155 pounds, and now I'm 180 pounds, so it's plus 25 pounds, and not maybe 1 to 2 to 3 pounds of it is fat. Like a lot of it is muscle. I went in from not being able to.
Like I was saying, that you don't feel like
Yeah.
that you're just moving people
way better,
way easier.
I went in, and realistically, I could do 185 for 1 at the beginning of the year. When we do our sprint.
I don't even know if I definitely.
And now I can do 190 for 4, 180. Like I can do like just like my strength has exponentially gone up, and so kind of what I'm doing right now. My schedule is 2 days a week. I do lower body, but my lower body is not just unintentional, just random exercises. I start off with this thing called French contrast, which is really mainly for explosiveness. So I start off with a heavy compound movement, and I superset that with a weighted plyometric, and I superset that with a body weight high intensity plyometric. And I do that for 4. I triple superset. I do that for 4 sets, and then I've realized that I've built a very big base of strength over the last little bit, but my body is like sore a lot, and I don't have a ton of mobility, and I feel restricted with my movements, and that's why I'm not necessarily moving as well as I want to on defense or jumping as high or running as fast. So I incorporate a lot of mobility, but it's not just like regular mobility and stretching. It's a lot of like getting stronger and lengthening my tendons in under load in these stretching positions. It's something that Chris kind of showed me. So there's these specific types
Knees
of
over toes guy.
yeah. So it's a
That's
person,
word I showed
a
up.
social media guy, and he has this program. So it's these like specific types of lunges where you put your knees over your toes, and it really not only is a lunge, so it strengthens your quads and strengthens your muscles, but it's really good for your knee health, and it really opens your hip flexors. It stretches out your hips, and I honestly feel way better. I had really tight hips before, and my back was really tight because of it, and now I feel I wake up in the morning with no back pain. I can just walk into the gym and dunk probably like most days.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not even trying to like hop on this guy's bleep, but that stuff genuinely changed how I was playing basketball, because I had shin splints, I had knee pain, I had a lot of lower back pain too, and just doing so the difference between his stuff versus regular stretching and foam rolling and all this stuff is, one, you have to do way less volume. You're not doing this stuff every single day. And two, you're actually strengthening the areas in your body that you're
in lengthened positions.
So you're no longer, so you could do this stuff once a week, which is what he does, by the way. And this guy can do a full front split. Maybe I'll put a video in there. Full front split, full side split. He's incredibly strong in these super weird
You
positions.
can dunk out of a deep squat.
Oh, yeah, he can dunk with a deep squat. And he started his career, he couldn't touch the backboard. Now he's got a 40-inch vertical, all this stuff. Long story, but basically just strengthening these tendons under load allows you to not have to stretch them every single day, because when you stretch your tendons and stuff, when you do like hand touch your toes and all that stuff, what you're doing is you're lengthening the tendons, and then when you go play, they shorten back up again. You're doing this cycle for your entire life. But when you're lengthening them, you're using load, you're actually strengthening them while they're in that position, so they stay lengthened, so you no longer have to continuously do this straight stretch, shorten, stretch, shorten, stretch, shorten cycle. And it makes your life way easier. It gets you way less pain. Your athleticism starts to go up. It fixes a bunch of stuff, dude.
So my leg days, just to summarize, I start off with the French contrast. It's a triple superset for 4 sets. And I do 2 different of these strengthen mobility exercises where I'm strengthening my tendons in lengthened positions. I do these specific type of lunges, and then I do this another movement at more of a hip hinge for good morning. And then I do another hamstring exercise just to not neglect my hamstrings. And I call it a day. Takes me, if I'm really motivated, I can finish it in 35 to 40 minutes. And I guarantee you I'm getting more out of that than you're in being in the gym for 2 hours doing.
We just love insulting our viewers.
Because they don't know what they're doing. No, I'm joking. But so really you want to optimize it. We'll talk about my schedule in a minute and how I'm going to become extremely busy in the next little bit. I don't have time to be in the gym for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So really get the most out of my time. I can really just get what I get done in 30, 40 minutes. And so for upper body then, I've put on 25 pounds of muscle. Like I've gotten to a place where like I'm not nearly as strong as I want to be and as I could be. And no one's ever been too strong, but there's no way I'll ever be able to get to be too strong. but right. So I've kind of decreased a little bit of the volume and increased the intensity. And so for example, I do upper body twice a week, and I do a superset for chest, a superset for back, and a superset for shoulders, and that's it. 3 sets of each one, 6 sets in total per muscle group, and I keep the intensity very high. I keep the rest minimal, and I go right from exercise 1 to exercise 2, and I make sure that I'm going to almost failure on each thing. So it's like I'm not just like doing 8 reps. Like I'm making sure my last 6, 7, 8 are difficult, and I'm also making sure I'm going up week to week to week, and I'm not doing the same stuff and getting stagnant. And then I have 1 day a week just for arms, because I explained before triceps are extremely important, and I feel like if I tag on arms on the end of my upper body days, I'm not gonna end up doing them because I'm unmotivated by the end.
But at the end of your workout, neglect it.
Exactly. So I have 1 day a week just for triceps, and then I obviously a little bit of biceps in there because I don't want to have muscle imbalances. So I do a little bit of biceps, mainly triceps, and I also hit calves on that day as well because I don't have time on other days. And that's I'm in the weight room 5 days a week. I would say an average of 40 minutes per session, and I've seen exponential growth, and I'm looking forward to continuing seeing exponential growth throughout this rest of the summer.
I would go into my workouts, but I go crazy.
You're also not lifting right now for the same.
No, not really.
purpose.
But I'm still moving though.
You were doing 8 hour. You did 1 day 8 hour arm workout, so you're not necessarily.
Any of y'all want to put a straight up inch on your arms in 1 day? Rich Piana's 8 hour arm workout.
Don't do that,
dude.
Get in the gym. Shoot some free throws. Dribble the ball a little bit.
You feel.
Go touch some grass.
My elbows are still fucked up from that, by the way. So maybe it is a bad idea, but
definitely a bad idea.
It did put a legit inch, 3/4 of an inch on my arms.
Don't do that.
Immaculate. But we're gonna move on from
Knowing kids, they're probably gonna do that after no matter everything we just said the last 20 minutes. They're gonna do the 8 hour arm workout.
Diesel.
But yeah, so the next thing, so it's kind of three segments to an off season. There's on-court work, there's weight room work, and there's live play.
Yep.
So, and we already talked about live play a little bit before, and we're gonna kind of continue into that. Is just make sure you're finding pickups and all different type of pickups. So you want to be doing 5-on-5, you want to be doing 1-on-1s, 2-on-2, 3-on-3s, because there's different things you work out of each one. So for example, sure. I'm playing University of Toronto Summer League, so that's my 5-on-5 for the week. Chances are to get good competitive 5-on-5 in the summer is difficult. So I'm lucky that I was
especially a Summer League.
Yeah, so I'm lucky to be able to play in that, to get good competitive 5-on-5 in that, which honestly is probably the best for your development because it simulates the most of a regular game.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a bridge between practicing by yourself and then a real game, which is the live play, which is the 1s, 2s, 3s, where you can really work on the skills that you've been working on in practice and in by yourself versus live defense.
Yeah, because nothing can really mimic in-game stuff, but you can get the reads, you can get all that stuff down. And like you said, that is playing 2-on-2 versus 3-on-3 versus 4-on-4 versus 5-on-5 versus 5-on-5 reft. Those are
different things.
Very different styles of play.
And you can get better at. There's different things you can excel on.
Mm-hmm.
There's different things you can excel on. So it's really, but it's also like prioritizing that. So I'd say twice a week. Right now, twice a week, I'm playing live play. I'm playing a 5-on-5 with refs, full game in the University of Toronto Summer League on Tuesdays. And then on Fridays, I'm either playing 2s, 3s, or 4s. 2s, 3s, or 4s. And but it's completely different things. It's all half-court stuff, and it's all
like in those live games. You're restricted to the things that you're absolutely best at. Your shooting, your mid-ranges, and those very
in like the 5-on-5.
Yes, and your 5-on-5 ref. But then when you go to the 3s, like you did with Brad the other day, you can come off these pin downs. You can work on your finishing. You can do this extra stuff. You can sharpen these other areas.
Yeah.
Which you can't really do in a game because those aren't your strengths.
Exactly. So you want to make sure that you're not and you're also, as we said before, seeking out the best competition to play, but also, I mean, you don't want to play competition too good that you can't. Like, you want to structure it to play competition.
Fuck that. Be the worst person in the gym. Bro.
Be the worst person in the gym at times, but you also want to play live stuff where you can operate, you can work on stuff versus live defense. So it's just finding different. It's also finding
basketball.
Just play basketball.
Play a lot of basketball.
As much as you can with everything else going on in your life, and that's kind of just covers pickup. We kind of talked about that a little bit during each thing. And so the next thing I really want to talk about is prioritizing movement over moves. So you can go in to the gym and work on your through legs dribble, work on your through legs crossover, your behind the back 360 spin, ninja kick.
I hope none of you have that.
But that's not going to do anything for you coming into the game, because can you really do that with defense? And then and even if you can do that with live defense, is that the most effective thing to do in that position?
No, I'd probably stick to the tween. You know what I'm saying?
So really focus on like movement and moves, and that's kind of how we talk about like game reads and like the pin downs and the pick and rolls, because that's really where like movement trumps moves, because there's not one move off a pin down, there's not one move on a pick and roll. It's really about movement and reacting to the defense. So it's really just focus on like moving fluidly, as opposed to just working on moves all day.
Yeah, and prioritizing, because there's probably a lot of kids out there who, when we listen, like, we're trying to talk about breaking down parts of the game and mastering this thing, then moving on to this thing, and how we went from talking about how you have like a jump shot and the guy flies at you, and then you do a pump fake, and then you run the step back and all this stuff. There's probably a bunch of moves that you're half decent at, but that you could really sharpen up if you spent actual time focusing on them. So for example, I'm working with this kid who I really want him to get to that point where he can get like a delayed tween. Like, you know,
I love it.
You put it through it and then you go.
I always do that. Yeah.
He's so used to just jamming it through and then just going immediately after the ball hits the ground. And it's like just really focusing on like the different types of things you can do with the ball, and a bunch of different, there's so many nuances to the game that you can focus on if you just spend time actually analyzing the way you need to move, the way the ball has to hit the ground, and just sharpening day after day after day, to the point where you know when I do this and it hits the ground and I tween, I know how that guy's going to react, because I've done this move 1,000 times by myself, and I've worked on each individual part. How's my back foot? How's my inside, like my shoulder when I hit this? And just really simple things broken down and compartmentalized into a singular move, just a tween, delayed tween, like that. You can go so in depth with very basic stuff and just master it, that I promise you most of you probably aren't doing that, and that's where a lot of your time should be spent.
At the end of the day, the best move is taking advantage of what the defense gives you, right? And so you have to have a lot of stuff in your repertoire in order to be able to choose what you think is best in that given moment. So that's why it's important not to fall in love. I mean, obviously it's good to have a go-to move and something that you can rely on, but it's mainly just focusing on what moves, just movement and how to move properly, as opposed to just focusing on your moves all day and doing moves into shots and stuff like that. It's really just about the movement. But that's also why the weight room is really good, because the weight room really helps you with your movement, because you're focusing on movement under load, which helps you move without load. And your plyometric stuff makes you faster and jump higher, and the weight room makes you stronger, so you can move better on the court. And I think that kind of just take care of that. It's kind of just a mini segment. Let me get on to so my schedule. I'll give you guys a kind of template of my schedule of what I do on a daily basis, because obviously Chris is a retired hooper, current social media.
I thought that word was coming a completely different way. I'm not gonna lie.
What? Chris is a retired hooper, current trainer, current farmer, current.
I'm about to be ex-farmer, bro.
Don't
even bring that up.
Current. But yeah. But also, you all may say, okay, well, I would love to get in the gym 2 to 4 hours a day, twice a day, but I work all day. I work. I need to maybe help my family. I need to make money to support myself. Maybe I'm paying for my school. Maybe if I want to go to college, I'm paying for it.
So I need to do more excuses at me while you're at it.
There's a lot, but that being said, there's a lot of reasons as to why someone would say that.
There's always more reasons not to get in the gym than there is to get in the gym.
So I'm going to give you guys my schedule of what I do. So overall umbrella, I get in 10 to 12 workouts a week through 6 days. I take Saturday. I'm taking Saturdays off to do nothing as a rest day, to do nothing just mentally, because my weeks are very intense.
Make a joke there, but I can't. I'm trying
So,
to be PG for the kids.
My week start off on Sunday. Sunday I have an encore workout and I lift. Depending on how I'm feeling, it might just be shooting spots. For example, today I had a grueling workout yesterday. On Saturday, shouldn't have done that, but I was invited to this run and I wanted to go. So
see, sometimes you go overboard.
But sometimes you go overboard. Sometimes you go overboard. But I was very sore today, and so
that was like a chance to play. That was like pretty decent basketball.
Yeah, that was worth giving up the rest.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's always, in my opinion, it's always worth going overboard if you can get in 4s or 5s, especially if it's high level 4s or 5s.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Always worth it.
But that's not going to happen every week. And I know that. That's why I took advantage of it last week. But for example, today is day 1. I was sore today, so I shot for like an hour and a half with Ryan Rudnick, who was on the pod, and we just shot spots. We shot a ton of form shots, free throws, a ton of some mid ranges, and a ton of threes. We each made 120 threes, probably 50 mid ranges, 50 free throws, and a ton of form shots. And we kind of just shot spots, just really locked in on our form, really locked in on just shooting the ball fluidly and just whatever we specifically want to work on. And then lifting, I've done half my lift already today, and I'm gonna finish the other half later. It kind of had to be split up from some stuff, but so I'm lifting. So Sundays I get shots up and I lift. Now Monday through Friday I work. I work 8 until 4:15.
I wish.
I work 8 until 4:15. So I wake up in the morning. I'm waking up in the morning at 5:50. And I basically am in the gym from 6:50 to 7:35 ish. And then I work all day, 8 to 4:15. Come home, nap, and then work out. So I'm still getting 2 workouts in, and I worked all day. That's Monday. Tuesday I have my games, and it's going to be too long of a day to get up early in the morning, so I sleep in a bit, work all day, play my game. Go a bit early and get shots up before, so I'm prepared, but play my game. Wednesday, I know my games sometimes go late. I'm not going to want to get up early in the next morning, so I sleep in till 7. Work all day, and then lift after, and maybe go and shoot after, depending on how I'm feeling. And then Thursday and Friday, both days, I wake up in the morning, train for another 45 minutes to an hour before work all day, and lift after. So I'm getting in 4 to 5 on-court sessions, high intensity on-court sessions a week, 5 lifts and 1 pickup. And then sometimes on Fridays, I'll train in the morning, lift, and then play pickup at night. So it's between 10 to 12 workouts a week, guaranteed 5 lifts, guaranteed at minimum 4, a maximum 6 on-court sessions, and 1 pickup. Or maximum 5 and 2 pickup, or whatever it is. And that's, for me personally, I feel comfortable with that going into my off season, being enough load, enough volume for me to continue to get better.
If you didn't have a job, would you be getting extra?
Well, the last little bit I don't have a job, and I've probably spent 1.5 to 2 hours in the gym, and another hour in the weight room. And then some days, for example, I'll go back to the gym to play pickup, or some days I'll go and shoot outside and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If you don't have a job, there's no reason why you shouldn't be disgusting.
Yeah.
if you have dead ass nothing to do, you should be violently good at some part of basketball. You should either have the nastiest right to let you have to have something in your bag if you have no job and you're hooping.
Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't have a job the last since school,
Mhm.
and I spent 4 hours, up to 4.5, 5 hours a
When
day.
this comes out, I won't.
So I was up to, I would say up to 2.5 hours in the gym. I would say between 1 hour and 15 to 2.5 hours in the gym, and then between 40 minutes to 1 hour and 15 minutes in the weight room.
If it was me, I'm saying I'd be spending, because I just like being in the weight room. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love being in the weight room. I'd be spending 1 hour and 30 minutes a day in the weight room because I already do that at a minimum.
If you're a hooper and you have no job.
If this is me,
Okay.
but minus no job, still plays college basketball. This is
Okay.
what I would be doing. 1 hour 30 minutes in the weight room 5 times a week because I know I'd be going hard as fuck on the court. I swore like 4 times this episode. This is not good. But I'd be going hard as F 5 times a week in the weight room, and I'd be splitting it between 1 day of plyos, 1 day upper, 1 day lower, and then probably mobility, and then another day with just strength-based stuff. So plyos, upper, lower, mobility, strength. That would be my split. And
1.5 is crazy. You could definitely get an effective workout in it.
I probably
45
could,
minutes.
but I just like being in the gym.
You
with
could get an
my
effective workout in
boys,
45 minutes.
With it's just
So you're just bullshitting.
no. It just depends. 'Cause you also you said you like to go from workout to thing. I like to have a little rest in between my stuff.
No, I like to have a rest in between my stuff.
Like in between sets, no.
Oh, in between sets, no. Yeah,
That's
no,
what I'm
I-
saying. You like to go
Exactly.
crazy.
So if you,
I
you
think
can-
I get more out of squatting 225 for 8, racking it, sitting there for 4 minutes, and then going back into it. Because that second set, I'm gonna have way more intensity than you just.
that is fair. That is definitely fair.
Depends on the person.
But you could. But what we're saying is up to you. But you definitely don't need to. You could spend 45 minutes.
Yeah,
in the weight room.
realistically, that's what I'm saying. I would get
5 days a week in the weight room.
five weight room, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I've never really been the type of person to take a rest day. Even my rest days, like I'm.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not either the type of person to take a rest day. But I feel like
if
I'm
if
gonna-
I overdo it, then yeah.
now here's my thing. The best workout is what you can do consistently every day.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I don't take a rest day, and now I'm not only working out 10 to 12 times a week, but I'm working 5 days a week, and on my weekends I'm also not taking a break. Eventually, am I gonna last? Am I gonna last at this intensity, this volume, for 7-8 weeks in a row?
No.
Potentially not. So I
There
feel like
is
it's
an art.
healthy.
There is an art to not burning out. And
Yeah,
that
there-
comes
yeah.
with self-awareness.
100%.
Because at some point in your career, you went so hard that you woke up the next day with a bat and you just
For sure.
couldn't. You didn't
For
want
sure.
to look at a
So
basketball.
I feel like this is a perfect kind of happy medium of high intensity, on-court training, weight room, live play, and then also taking 1 day to just. And honestly, a rest day is not nothing. A rest day, I'm gonna be stretching. I may even hop on the bike,
That's what I mean.
and I may do a pool workout, or I may just go get some light shots up on my driveway or something like that. Like I'm not doing nothing, but it's just not. The intensity is gonna be way less.
I'm still playing basketball on my off day. That's a fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna because we love it and we're gonna obviously. But I mean, some days I may not. But yeah, so that's kind of what
Yeah,
my
but-
schedule looks like.
Yeah, but on top of that, I'd also be doing it would just be super structured. Like my Monday to Wednesday would probably be a lot of ball handling and then some shooting because I'm a point guard. And then my Thursday, Friday, Saturday would probably be a lot more shooting and maybe some defensive slides and stuff like that just to keep that stuff sharp. It would be understanding your game will give you a complete roadmap of how you want to structure your off-season workouts because you know exactly what you need to work on. You got blocked in that game by that 7-foot dude and you knew you should have went inside hand versus outside hand, and it just comes from playing basketball. You understand and you have to be honest with yourself because you know what areas you need to work on. That's obviously why you tend to shoot threes and not do this and that. It's just playing a lot of basketball will give you the roadmap, and a lot of these kids probably already know the answer to this question that we're going to put on the title here of how to structure your off-season workouts, but we're just going to say it to your face. Work on the stuff that you know you need to work on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could wrap it up in a minute, but just like the most important thing is just work on the stuff you know you need to work on, and then the best workout is what you can do consistently. So can you do what you're currently doing now comfortably, and not only comfortably, but are you excited to get up and do it every day? Some days you're not going to be excited to do it, and you're going to have to push through those days because everybody has days where they're not.
I think we touched on overtraining a lot. We also don't touch on undertraining because there's a lot of kids who aren't getting on the court enough.
Well, I feel like we're giving the example of how to train properly, of to not undertrain. But it's just, can you do what you're doing consistently? Because the key to success is consistent compound of growth. and just compounding year after year, day after day, getting better at certain things. Because it's at the end of the day, it is a marathon. It's not a race. Like, I can think of so many guys who were the best players in the province because I was around. I was on one of the best teams in the country, grade 5, 6, and 7. And I could tell you, like, so many of those guys are not even playing college basketball now. And it's because nobody cares what you did in grade 7. It's can you sustain what you did from grade 7 through grade 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe your 5th year into college.
This is kind of some game theory stuff. I've been listening to podcasts about this. There's finite games, and then there's infinite games. So, like, I don't know if it was a Vietnam War or some war, but I think the U.S. was at war with somebody, and the U.S. was trying to win the war, and Vietnam was just trying to survive, and the Vietnam ended up winning that war. If they were playing an infinite game. If you're playing a finite game versus someone who's playing an infinite game, you're just trying to play basketball. The way you win a finite game is by continuously staying in the game. And business, fitness, you don't win fitness.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You just stay in shape.
For sure.
You don't win basketball. You continue to play basketball.
And do you think that may be a reason why you're not playing college basketball anymore? Because you were playing the game of I want to play college basketball versus
exactly.
me. I've always
you just wanted to play basketball.
I've always loved that. I mean, my goal was to play college basketball. But it wasn't the end all. Like, obviously, I wanted nothing more to play college basketball. That was my dream. But it was just to play basketball.
The infinite game is to keep playing basketball. That was your goal the whole time. It's like you don't win fitness. You get in shape, and then the goal is to stay in shape. Business is the same thing as the guy was saying on the podcast. You don't win business, you just stay in business. So if you're playing an infinite game of I just want to play the sport for as long as I possibly can at the highest level, you're going to beat the guy who's saying, I just want to be better than that guy.
For sure.
Like, that's a short-term thing.
When anybody asks me what my goal is in basketball, I always say would be the best basketball player I can be. So what's your goal in college? Just be the best player I can be.
Just keep playing.
Just be the best player I
your goal
can
is
be.
just
That's
keep
why,
playing,
like, people ask me, why do you
win.
want to play basketball in college? That was everybody. Why do you want it? Like, what do you get playing D3? I just want to keep playing. I just want to keep playing at a competitive level. It was never because I wanted. It was never that. It was just to keep playing at a competitive level. So definitely, but in order to do that, you can't burn out. Because in order to stay in the infinite game, you have to find a regimen, a training schedule that is conducive for compounded growth. And yeah, I think. Do you have anything that you would want before we wrap it up? Do you have any, like, through your playing career, like, what you would regret, what you wish you kind of did? You kind of talked about it before. Like, what you did more, what out of this do you wish you implemented?
2 right now is 1. Now seeing what it did for me is not getting in the weight room because I was playing against guys. That is the biggest thing. I see the difference between guys who are really killing it on the court and versus kids who are kind of struggling, especially in AAU, is those dudes who were very muscular, just bigger dudes who could get to the rim and were moving these little kids and just finishing around the rim and stuff. And just having a basic set strength point that was higher than everybody else they were playing against. Those kids were the ones who got the most out of the sport. Especially because like when I went to the rim or when I was driving and stuff and I got bumped a little bit, it was like I just couldn't handle that aggressive physicality at the next level. If I would have hit the weight room earlier, that would have changed all of that. I would have got more reps. I would have enjoyed the sport more because when you're sitting on the bench, that's not any fun. And I would have been able to play defense. It just changes the way you play the game. And then 2 is I would have worked on my jump shot a significant amount more because it just I didn't click early enough that is. You'll always have a spot in the team if you can shoot. And you can always rely on that.
I think obviously weight room is 1, but I'm not gonna. I mean, you already talked about that. And then 2 is kind of just is more just like research, and it's just like, for example, like almost all the stuff I'm doing now, especially in the weight room, is because I've researched, because I've asked questions to Chris, or I've done research about what's best and kind of found something that and trial and error. And I feel like I would just have researched a little bit more about so I can kind of maximize what I was doing. And yeah, thank you guys for listening. This is episode.
We gotta stop counting episodes.
Yeah, we gotta stop counting episodes. But follow us on YouTube or subscribe to the channel Ship Across the Border. Follow us on Instagram at SATB_pod and on TikTok at Ship Across the Border. And thank you guys for listening. And this is
Twitter coming soon.
a good episode. Take care.